The galactic stage. The vast expanse of the Milky Way had never seemed so small. For millennia, countless civilizations had risen and fallen, their empires expanding and contracting like the breath of some cosmic leviathan. But now, in the 73rd century of the galactic standard calendar, the stars themselves seemed to tremble with anticipation. At the heart of this celestial drama stood the Zirconian Empire, a regime as brutal as it was efficient. Their sleek obsidian ships cut through space like sharks through still water, leaving devastation in their wake. For decades, they had been expanding their territory, swallowing up smaller civilizations with ruthless precision. The Galactic Council, once a bastion of diplomacy and cooperation, found itself paralyzed in the face of this threat. Species that had coexisted peacefully for generations now eyed each other with suspicion, each fearing that the other might ally with the Zirconians for their own survival. It was into this powder keg of tension that humanity stumbled, blissfully unaware of the role they were about to play. Earth's first contact came not with a bang, but with a whisper. A lone Arcturian survey ship, damaged and adrift, sent out a distress signal that was picked up by a deep space listening post on Europa. The message was garbled, barely decipherable, but its implications were clear. We are not alone. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, the lead xenolinguist at the Europa facility, spent sleepless nights poring over the transmission. It's more than just a call for help, she explained to the hastily assembled UN Security Council. It's a warning. Whatever damaged their ship is still out there, and it's coming our way. Humanity's response was swift and decisive. Within months, a joint task force of scientists, diplomats, and military personnel was assembled. Their mission, to make contact with the Arcturians and assess the threat to Earth. The expedition, led by the charismatic Admiral James Chen, set out aboard the USS Horizon, Earth's most advanced starship. As they approached the coordinates of the distress signal, the crew's excitement was palpable. They were about to make history. But history, as it often does, had other plans. The Horizon emerged from its final jump to find not a damaged survey ship, but the smoldering remains of an entire Arcturian fleet. And looming over the debris field was a Zirconian dreadnought, its weapons still glowing from the recent battle. "My God," whispered Chen, his eyes wide with horror. "What have we gotten ourselves into?" The next few hours were a blur of frantic diplomacy and barely averted disaster. The Zirconians, initially suspicious of the human ship, were intrigued by their technology. Earth's development of faster-than-light travel, achieved in isolation from the rest of the galaxy, was something of a curiosity. It was this curiosity that saved the Horizon from immediate destruction. Instead, the humans were escorted to the nearest Zirconian outpost for further discussions. As Chen and his team were led through the stark corridors of the Zirconian station, they couldn't help but marvel at the alien architecture. Everything was designed for efficiency, with not a single element wasted. It was beautiful, in a cold, clinical way. That all quickly turned to dread as they were brought before the station's commander, a towering figure with iridescent scales and eyes that seemed to pierce through to their very souls. "Welcome, humans," the commander's voice resonated in their minds, a telepathic intrusion that left them feeling violated. "You have arrived at an opportune moment. The galaxy is changing, and you now have the privilege of choosing your place in the new order." Chen, drawing on years of diplomatic training, straightened his back and met the commander's gaze. "We appreciate your hospitality," he said carefully. "But we are here on a mission of peace and exploration. We have no interest in choosing sides in a conflict we don't understand." The commander's laughter was like ice cracking. "Oh, little humans," it mocked. "You misunderstand. There are no sides to choose. There is only the Empire, and those who have yet to accept its inevitability." As the implications of those words sank in, Chen realized that humanity had just been thrust onto a stage far larger and more dangerous than they could have imagined. Their actions in the coming days would determine not just the fate of Earth, but potentially that of the entire galaxy. Back on Earth, news of the expedition's encounter spread like wildfire. Governments scrambled to develop contingency plans, while the public oscillated between excitement and terror at the prospect of alien contact. Dr. Rodriguez, now heading up a global team of linguists and protographers, worked tirelessly to decipher the wealth of data that Horizon had managed to transmit before communication was cut off. "There's so much here," she muttered, her eyes red from lack of sleep. An entire galactic history, countless species, technologies beyond our wildest dreams, and a threat that could wipe us all out. As the days stretched into weeks with no word from the horizon, tensions on Earth reached a boiling point. Protests erupted in major cities, with some calling for immediate military buildup and others advocating for peaceful outreach to the stars. It was in this climate of fear and uncertainty that an unlikely hero emerged. Dr. Aidan Kummel, a brilliant but reclusive physicist, came forward with a revolutionary proposal. "We can't match their firepower," he explained to a skeptical UN panel, "but we might be able to outthink them." Kummel's idea was audacious. Use Earth's unique technological development to create a defense system unlike anything the Zarkonians had encountered. By combining cutting-edge AI with quantum entanglement communication, he believed they could create an unpredictable, adaptive network that could level the playing field. "It's not about winning a war," Kummel insisted. "It's about making ourselves too costly to conquer. We need to buy time to understand this new galactic landscape and find our place in it." As Earth grappled with its new reality, the crew of the Horizon faced their own challenges. Isolated on the Zarkonian station, they walked a delicate line between cooperation and resistance. Chen, drawing on every ounce of his diplomatic skill, managed to keep his crew safe while gathering crucial intelligence. It was during one of their carefully monitored cultural exchanges that Chen made a startling discovery. Not all species in the galaxy were content under Zarkonian rule. Whispers of a resistance movement, of civilizations that had managed to maintain their independence, began to reach human ears. As Chen processed this information, he realized that humanity's entrance onto the galactic stage might be more significant than anyone had realized. They were an unknown factor, a wild card in a game that had been played for millennia. The question now was, how would they play their hand? Back on the Zarkonian station, Chen and his team were beginning to piece together a picture of the galactic political landscape. The Empire, for all its power, was not as monolithic as it first appeared. There were factions within factions, complex alliances and rivalries that stretched back centuries. As the humans absorbed this information, they also began to notice something else. The other species on the station, from the serpentine slocky to the crystalline quartz mines, were watching them with increasing interest. At first, Chen assumed it was simple curiosity about the newcomers, but as time went on, he sensed something more, a growing undercurrent of hope. It was during a quiet moment in their quarters that Dr. Yuki Tanaka, the Horizon's chief science officer, voiced what they had all been thinking. "They're looking at us like we're some kind of saviors," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "But we're just as lost as they are." Chen nodded, his expression grim. "Maybe that's exactly why they're pinning their hopes on us. We're the only ones here who haven't already given up." As the first part of our story draws to a close, the stage is set for a cosmic drama unlike any other. Humanity, thrust unprepared into a galaxy teeming with ancient civilizations and terrible dangers, must now find its footing. The choices they make, the alliances they forge, and the ingenuity they bring to bear will determine not just their own fate, but that of countless other species across the stars. The Zarkonian Empire looms large, a seemingly unstoppable force of conquest and subjugation. But in the quiet corners of their vast station, in the whispered conversations between species long thought subdued, a spark of resistance flickers to life. And at the heart of it all stand the humans, newcomers, underdogs, and perhaps the galaxy's last, best hope for freedom. As Chen looks out at the star-studded void beyond the station's viewports, he can't help but feel the weight of history on his shoulders. Whatever comes next, one thing is certain: the galaxy will never be the same again. The human factor. The swirling blue-green orb of Earth hung in the view screen, a fragile marble suspended in the vast darkness of space. Admiral Lisa Hawkins stood on the bridge of the UNS Defiant, her eyes fixed on the planet below. In the months since first contact, humanity had undergone a transformation unlike anything in its history. "Status report," Hawkins barked, her voice crisp and authoritative. Lieutenant Commander Raj Patel's fingers danced across his console. "The quantum shield network is at 98% capacity, Admiral. Dr. Kummel's team has outdone themselves." Hawkins allowed herself a small smile. Aiden Kummel's defensive system had indeed proven to be a game-changer. The network of satellites, linked through quantum entanglement, created an ever-shifting, adaptive shield around Earth. It was unlike anything the Zarkonians had encountered before, and it bought humanity precious time. But time for what? That was the question that kept Hawkins up at night. Down on the surface, in a repurposed bunker deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Elena Rodriguez pored over the latest translations from the Galactic Data Archives. The wealth of information they'd managed to extract from the Horizon's transmissions was staggering, but it was also a double-edged sword. "We're looking at thousands of years of history," she explained to the assembled world leaders via holographic conference. "Countless species, alliances formed and broken, empires risen and fallen, and through it all, one constant: conflict." President Amara Okafor of the African Union leaned forward, her brow furrowed. "Are you saying there's no hope for peaceful coexistence?" Rodriguez shook her head. "No, Madam President. I'm saying that peace has always come at a price. The question is, are we willing to pay it?" As the debate raged on Earth, Admiral Chen and his crew aboard the Horizon continued their delicate dance of diplomacy and espionage on the Zarkonian station. They had become adept at reading between the lines, at deciphering the complex web of alliances and resentments that bound the various species together. It was during one such clandestine meeting that Chen met Zixara, a member of the Slocky Resistance. The serpentine alien's scales shimmered with barely contained excitement as they spoke in hushed tones. "Your arrival has changed everything," Zixara hissed softly. "The Zarkonians are unsettled. They do not know how to categorize you." Chen raised an eyebrow. "I'm not sure I follow. We're clearly not a military threat." Zixara's tongue flicked out, tasting the air. "It's not about military might. It's about unpredictability. For millennia, the dance of power in this galaxy has followed certain rhythms. You humans, you don't know the steps, and that makes you dangerous." As Chen digested this information, back on Earth, a breakthrough was occurring. Dr. Kummel, working in tandem with a team of xenobiologists, had made a startling discovery. "It's all about perception," Kummel explained, his eyes alight with excitement. "The Zarkonians, like many of the older species, perceive time differently than we do. They think in terms of centuries, millennia even. But humans, we're mayflies in comparison," Rodriguez finished, understanding dawning on her face. Kamal nodded vigorously. "Exactly. Our short lifespans, our rapid technological advancement, it's all linked. We adapt faster because we have to. And that adaptability might just be our greatest weapon." As this revelation spread through Earth's leadership, a plan began to take shape. It was audacious, perhaps even foolhardy, but it played to humanity's strengths in a way nothing else had. Admiral Hawkins presented the outline to the United Earth Council. "We propose a two-pronged approach," she began, her voice steady. "First, we continue to build our defenses, making Earth too costly a target to attack directly. But secondly, and more importantly, we reach out." The council chamber erupted in murmurs. "Reach out? To whom?" Hawkins continued, undeterred. "Thanks to the intelligence gathered by Chen's team, we know there are cracks in the Zarkonian Empire. Species that chafe under their rule, others that have managed to maintain a degree of independence. We propose forming a galactic alliance. President Okafor leaned forward. An alliance? Based on what? We're newcomers to this stage, Admiral. What could we possibly offer? Hope, Hawkins replied simply, and a new way of thinking. Our adaptability, our creativity. These are assets in a galaxy that has grown stagnant under Zarkonian rule. As the Council debated, light years away, Chen and his team were putting the first pieces of this plan into motion. Through careful negotiation and no small amount of risk, they had arranged a clandestine meeting with representatives from several key species. The gathering took place in a forgotten maintenance corridor deep within the bowels of the Zarkonian station. Chen looked around at the assembled aliens, the sinuous Slucky, the towering crystal formations of the quartz mines, the gaseous swirls of the nebulons. It was a gathering unlike any in galactic history. Friends, Chen began, his voice low but intense. We stand at a crossroads. The Zarkonian Empire believes it has written the final chapter of galactic history. But I'm here to tell you that the story isn't over. Humanity may be new to this stage, but we bring with us something that has been in short supply: possibility. As Chen spoke, laying out Earth's vision for a new kind of alliance, he could see the spark of hope igniting in the eyes, or equivalent sensory organs, of those gathered. It was a spark that had long been extinguished under the weight of Zarkonian oppression. Meanwhile, back on Earth, preparations were underway for the next phase of the plan. Dr. Kummel and his team worked tirelessly to adapt human technology for interstellar communication and defense. The quantum shield network was expanded, with plans to extend its protection to potential allies. But it wasn't just about technology. Earth's greatest minds in diplomacy, strategy, and even the arts were brought together to form what became known as the Galactic Outreach Initiative. Their task was to understand and bridge the vast cultural divides between Earth and its potential allies. Dr. Rodriguez found herself at the forefront of this effort. We're not just translating languages, she explained to her team. We're translating entire worldviews, ways of thinking that have evolved over millions of years on alien worlds. It's the greatest challenge humanity has ever faced, and our greatest opportunity. As these efforts progressed, Admiral Hawkins oversaw the rapid expansion of Earth's fledgling space fleet. The UNS Defiant was joined by a growing armada of ships, each incorporating the lessons learned from the Horizon's encounter with Zarkonian technology. But even as humanity prepared for the possibility of conflict, they never lost sight of their ultimate goal: a lasting peace. It was a delicate balance, one that required constant vigilance and self-reflection. In a private moment, Hawkins confided in her old friend, Chen, via a secure quantum link. "James, are we doing the right thing? We're talking about upending the entire galactic order. The potential for catastrophe is..." Chen's holographic image smiled wryly. "Immense. Yes, it is. But Lisa, look at the alternative. A galaxy crushed under the boot of an empire that values conformity over creativity, stagnation over growth. We have a chance to offer something different." As their conversation continued, neither of them noticed the small, insectoid drone that had attached itself to the hull of the Defiant. A drone that was even now transmitting everything it saw and heard back to its Zarkonian masters. The stage was set. Humanity had made its opening move in this cosmic chess match. But the Zarkonians were far from idle, and their countermove would shake the galaxy to its very foundations. As Part 2 draws to a close, the sense of anticipation is palpable. Earth stands on the brink of a new era, reaching out to the stars with a message of hope and alliance. But the path ahead is fraught with danger, and the Zarkonian Empire is not about to relinquish its hold on the galaxy without a fight. The pieces are in motion, the players are taking their positions, and the next move could determine the fate of countless civilizations across the cosmos. As humanity prepares to step fully onto the galactic stage, one question looms large. Are they the architects of a new age of cooperation and progress, or have they unwittingly set in motion events that will plunge the galaxy into an era of unprecedented chaos and destruction? Only time will tell, And in this great game of cosmic chess, time is the one resource that no one, not even the long-lived Zarkonians, can afford to waste. Operation Trojan Horse. The Zarkonian High Command's war room was a marvel of alien architecture, its walls alive with holographic displays showing the vast expanse of their empire. But today, those displays were overshadowed by a single image: Earth. Supreme Commander Zarthu, his iridescent scales rippling with barely contained fury, glared at the projection. "How?" he demanded, his telepathic voice reverberating through the minds of his subordinates. "How has this insignificant speck of a world managed to defy us for so long?" The answer, of course, lay in the ingenuity of humanity's defenses. Dr. Kamal's quantum shield network had proven to be a formidable obstacle, adapting to each new Zarkonian probe and attack with frustrating efficiency. But it wasn't just Earth's defenses that worried Zarthu. Reports were coming in from across the empire of increased unrest, whispers of rebellion that seemed to coincide with humanity's arrival on the galactic stage. As the Zarkonians plotted their next move, aboard the UNS Defiant, Admiral Hawkins was facing a crisis of her own. The insectoid drone that had infiltrated her ship had been discovered, but not before it had transmitted a wealth of sensitive information back to the Zarkonians. "We have to assume they know everything," Hawkins said grimly to her assembled staff. "Our defenses, our allies, our plans, we're compromised." It was in this moment of apparent defeat that humanity's greatest strength shone through: adaptability. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, who had been quietly listening to the briefing, suddenly spoke up. "What if we use this to our advantage?" All eyes turned to her. Rodriguez continued, her excitement growing with each word. "The Zarkonians think they've outsmarted us, that they have the upper hand. But what if we feed them exactly what we want them to know?" And thus, Operation Trojan Horse was born. The plan was audacious, bordering on insane. Earth would appear to lower its defenses, presenting what seemed to be a vulnerability in the quantum shield network. Meanwhile, a small team led by Admiral Chen would infiltrate the heart of the Zarkonian Empire, using the confusion of the apparent attack on Earth as cover. "It's a massive gamble," Hawkins warned as the final preparations were made. "If the Zarkonians don't take the bait, or if Chen's team is discovered, then humanity goes down fighting," Chen finished, his expression resolute. "But if we succeed, we could end this war before it truly begins." As the plan was set in motion, Earth held its collective breath. The quantum shield flickered and wavered, a carefully orchestrated show of weakness designed to draw the Zarkonians in. Supreme Commander Zarthu watched the display with growing excitement. At last, he hissed to his generals, "The humans reveal their true fragility. Prepare the invasion fleet." But even as the Zarkonian armada mobilized, a small, nondescript ship slipped away from Earth, carrying Admiral Chen and his hand-picked team of specialists. Their mission: to infiltrate the Zarkonian homeworld and disable their central command structure. Among Chen's team was Zixara, the Slocky resistance member who had become an invaluable ally. Her knowledge of Zarkonian security systems would be crucial to the mission's success. As they approached the heart of the Empire, tensions ran high. Dr. Kamal, monitoring the situation from Earth, worked feverishly to maintain the illusion of a failing defense network. Every probe, every attack by the Zarkonians had to be met with just the right amount of resistance to keep them believing in their impending victory. Meanwhile, on the Zarkonian homeworld, Chen and his team began their infiltration. The planet was a nightmare of efficiency, every surface gleaming with a cold metallic sheen. Security was omnipresent, but Zixara's insider knowledge proved invaluable. "The central nexus is 3 levels down," she hissed, her forked tongue flicking nervously. "But the psychic defenses are unlike anything you've encountered before. Are you sure the human mind can withstand it?" Chen nodded grimly. "We've trained for this." Dr. Rodriguez's team developed a series of mental exercises specifically designed to shield us from Zarkonian telepathy. It's time to put them to the test. As they descended deeper into the heart of the Zarkonian command structure, the psychic pressure became almost unbearable. Several team members faltered, their minds assaulted by alien thoughts and emotions. But Chen pushed on, his iron will serving as an anchor for the others. Back on Earth, the situation was reaching a critical point. The Zarkonian fleet had arrived in force, their massive ships darkening the skies above every major city. Dr. Kummel's fingers flew across his console, orchestrating a symphony of false vulnerabilities and misdirections. "Just a little longer," he muttered, sweat beading on his brow. "Come on, Chen. We can't keep this up forever." In the depths of the Zarkonian central nexus, Chen and his team finally reached their objective. Before them stood a massive crystalline structure, pulsing with energy, the psychic hub that coordinated the entire Zarkonian war machine. "Now comes the tricky part," Chen said, his voice barely above a whisper. From his pack, he produced a device that looked deceptively simple, a small, metallic cube covered in intricate etchings. This was the culmination of months of work by Earth's best minds. A melding of human ingenuity and alien technology designed to do what many thought impossible: shut down the Zarkonian psychic network. As Chen approached the crystal, alarms began to blare. They were out of time. "Do it now," Zixara cried, her scales bristling with fear and excitement. Chen took a deep breath, steadied his hand, and placed the device against the pulsing crystal. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a sound like shattering glass multiplied 1,000-fold, the crystal began to crack. Waves of psychic energy rolled outward, threatening to overwhelm Chen and his team. But they held firm, their minds shielded by human determination and the fruits of Dr. Rodriguez's research. Across the galaxy, the effect was immediate and dramatic. Zarkonian ships suddenly lost coordination, their attacks becoming erratic and unfocused. On 1,000 worlds, oppressed species looked up in wonder as their overlord's controls suddenly wavered. And on Earth, as the Zarkonian fleet fell into disarray, Dr. Kummel allowed himself a small, triumphant smile. With a few keystrokes, he brought the quantum shield back to full power, enveloping the planet in an impenetrable barrier. The trap had been sprung, and humanity's gambit had paid off. But even as victory seemed within reach, Chen knew their work was far from over. The Zarkonian Empire, though staggered, was far from defeated, and the power vacuum left by their sudden weakness threatened to plunge the galaxy into chaos. As alarms blared and confusion reigned in the Zarkonian nexus, Chen turned to his team, his expression a mixture of triumph and grim determination. "This was just the opening move," he said. "Now comes the hard part, building a lasting peace." With those words, Chen and his team began their perilous journey back to their ship, carrying with them the hopes of not just humanity, but countless species across the stars. As Part 3 draws to a close, the galaxy stands on the brink of a new era. Humanity's daring plan has succeeded beyond their wildest expectations, but with great power comes great responsibility. The choices they make in the coming days and weeks will shape the future of interstellar relations for generations to come. The Zarkonian threat may have been neutralized, but new challenges loom on the horizon. Can humanity unite a fractured galaxy? Will their allies stand firm, or seek to take advantage of the power vacuum? And what of the Zarkonians themselves? Will they seek revenge, or can they be brought into a new galactic order? As Admiral Chen's ship races back towards Earth, these questions and more weigh heavily on the minds of all involved. The cosmic chess match is far from over. In many ways, it has only just begun. The Battle of Nexus Prime. The aftermath of Operation Trojan Horse sent shockwaves across the galaxy. The once mighty Zarkonian fleet, now in disarray, retreated to their core systems. But nature abhors a vacuum, and the sudden shift in the balance of power threatened to plunge the galaxy into chaos. Admiral Hawkins stood before the United Earth Council, her face etched with both triumph and concern. "We've won the battle," she said, her voice echoing through the chamber. "But the war for galactic stability has only just begun." Reports were flooding in from across known space. Some species, long oppressed by the Zarkonians, were rising up in rebellion. Others, sensing opportunity, were already moving to claim abandoned Zarkonian territories. And through it all, Earth found itself thrust into the role of mediator, peacekeeper, and somewhat uncomfortably, de facto galactic leader. Dr. Rodriguez, now heading up the newly formed Galactic Diplomatic Corps, worked tirelessly to establish lines of communication with hundreds of species. "We're dealing with civilizations that have millennia of history, grudges, and alliances," she explained to a group of human diplomats. "We can't simply impose our will or our values. We need to listen, to understand, and to find common ground." But not everyone was interested in diplomacy. In the Nexus Prime system, a strategic hub that had once been the crown jewel of Zarkonian space, tensions were reaching a boiling point. Multiple factions, including remnants of the Zarkonian military, were vying for control of the system's vast resources and advanced infrastructure. Admiral Chen, freshly returned from his mission to the Zarkonian homeworld, found himself dispatched to Nexus Prime at the head of a hastily assembled peacekeeping fleet. His orders were clear: prevent all-out war and secure the system for the fledgling Galactic Alliance. As the UNS Horizon dropped out of FTL on the outskirts of Nexus Prime, Chen's tactical display lit up like a Christmas tree. Dozens of ships from various species circled the system's planets and space stations, a powder keg waiting for a spark. "Open a channel to all vessels," Chen commanded, his voice steady despite the tension. "This is Admiral James Chen of the United Earth Navy, representing the Galactic Alliance. We are here to facilitate peaceful negotiations for the future of Nexus Prime. All hostile actions will be met with proportional force." For a moment, there was silence. Then suddenly, a barrage of weapons fire erupted from a cluster of Zarkonian ships streaking towards Chen's fleet. "Evasive maneuvers," Chen shouted. "Activate quantum shields." The battle for Nexus Prime had begun. What followed was a display of tactics and strategy unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. Chen, drawing on humanity's long history of warfare and the lessons learned from their recent galactic adventures, orchestrated a symphony of movement and precision strikes. The human ships darted and weaved through the chaos, their quantum shields adapting in real time to each new threat. Meanwhile, Dr. Kummel, monitoring the battle from Earth, worked furiously to counter Zarkonian attempts to reactivate their psychic network. But it wasn't just about firepower. Even as the battle raged, Shen was working diplomatic channels, reaching out to the various factions. "We don't want to rule Nexus Prime," he insisted during a tense communication with a Slucky commander. "We want to ensure it remains open and accessible to all peaceful species." Slowly, painstakingly, Chen's strategy began to bear fruit. Some factions, seeing the humans' effectiveness in battle and swayed by their diplomatic overtures, began to stand down. Others, realizing they were outmatched, retreated to the system's edges. The Zarkonians, however, fought on with the desperation of a cornered animal. Their once mighty dreadnoughts, though diminished without their psychic coordination, were still formidable opponents. It was in this moment, with the battle hanging in the balance, that humanity's unique approach to problem-solving shone through. Dr. Kummel, in a burst of inspiration, devised a way to turn the quantum shield technology into an offensive weapon. "Admiral," his excited voice crackled over the comms, "if we recalibrate the shields to emit a focused pulse of quantum energy, we can disrupt the Zarkonian ship systems without destroying them." Chen didn't hesitate. "Do it," he ordered. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Zarkonian ships suddenly found their weapons and propulsion systems offline, drifting helplessly in space. The tide of battle had turned decisively. As the dust settled, Chen surveyed the aftermath. The space around Nexus Prime was littered with disabled ships and debris, a sobering reminder of the cost of conflict. But amidst the destruction, there was hope. Representatives from the various factions, seeing the futility of further violence, were requesting to come aboard the horizon for negotiations. Back on Earth, the United Earth Council watched the events unfold with a mixture of pride and trepidation. Humanity had proven itself on the galactic stage, but with that success came enormous responsibility. President Okafor, addressing the Council and by extension, the people of Earth, summed up the sentiment. Today, we have shown the galaxy not just our strength, but our compassion. Our willingness to fight, yes, but more importantly, our desire for peace. The road ahead will not be easy, but together with our new galactic allies, we will forge a future brighter than any single species could achieve alone. As the negotiations on Nexus Prime began, with Chen serving as mediator, the shape of this new galactic future started to take form. The system would become a neutral zone, governed by a council representing all major species. Its resources and technology would be shared, a shining example of cooperation in a galaxy long torn by conflict. But even as hope blossomed, challenges loomed. The Zarkonians, though defeated, were not destroyed. Rumors swirled of hardline factions regrouping in distant systems, vowing revenge. Other species, emboldened by the Zarkonians' fall, began to eye their neighbors' territories with newfound ambition. And through it all, humanity found itself walking a delicate line. They had the power to shape galactic events, but with that power came the risk of becoming the very thing they had fought against. The temptation to impose their will, to become the new Zarkonians, was ever present. As night fell on Nexus Prime, Chen stood at the viewport of the horizon, gazing out at the glittering expanse of the galaxy. The weight of recent events, of the countless lives hanging in the balance, pressed heavily upon him. A soft chime announced the arrival of a message from Earth. It was from Dr. Rodriguez. The first meeting of the Galactic Council is set for next month. Representatives from over 100 species will attend. They're calling it the Dawn Concord. We did it, James. We really did it. Chen allowed himself a small smile. They had indeed done it. They had changed the course of galactic history. But as he looked out at the stars, he knew that the real work was only just beginning. The battle of Nexus Prime was over, but the struggle for a just and peaceful galaxy had only just begun. As Part 4 comes to a close, the galaxy stands at a crossroads. The Zarkonian threat has been neutralized, at least for now, and a new era of cooperation seems possible. But the path forward is fraught with challenges. Can humanity maintain its moral compass in the face of near-limitless power? Can ancient enmities between species be overcome in the name of progress? And what unseen threats might be lurking in the vast, unexplored reaches of the cosmos? The cosmic chess match continues, with each move carrying the weight of billions of lives across countless worlds. As the pieces are repositioned and new alliances form, one thing is certain: the galaxy will never be the same again. The price of victory. The Grand Assembly Hall of the newly constructed Galactic Council headquarters on Nexus Prime buzzed with an energy unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. Representatives from over 100 species, many of whom had been bitter enemies mere months ago, now sat side by side, united by a common purpose, forging a new future for all sentient beings. At the center of it all stood Dr. Elena Rodriguez, her eyes bright with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. As she prepared to address the assembled delegates, she couldn't help but marvel at how far they'd come and how far they still had to go. Distinguished representatives, she began, her voice carrying clearly through the vast chamber. Today we embark on an unprecedented journey. The Dawn Concord represents not just the end of one era, but the beginning of another. An era of cooperation, of shared progress, and of lasting peace. As Rodriguez spoke, outlining the principles of the new galactic order, the faces of the delegates reflected a range of emotions: hope, skepticism, curiosity, and in some cases, barely concealed resentment. The fall of the Zarkonian Empire had left deep scars across the galaxy, and healing would take time. Meanwhile, light years away, Admiral Chen found himself facing a different kind of challenge. The UAS Horizon hovered at the edge of what had once been Zarkonian space, part of a task force assigned to monitor for any signs of resurgent aggression. But the real threat, Chen was beginning to realize, came not from without, but from within. "Admiral," his XO reported, her voice tight with concern, "we're picking up distress signals from the Thalatian system. It seems a group of human mercenaries have taken control of one of the major trading hubs." Chen felt his heart sink. This was exactly the kind of scenario they feared. Humans, drunk on their newfound power and advanced technology, exploiting the chaos for personal gain. "Set a course for the Thalatian system, maximum speed," he ordered, his mind already racing through potential strategies. They had to contain this situation quickly, before it could undermine everything they'd worked for. Back on Nexus Prime, the negotiations were hitting a snag. The Slocky delegation, still bitter over centuries of Zarkonian oppression, were demanding harsh reparations. The court's minds, ever logical, argued for a clean slate approach. And caught in the middle were the humans, trying to navigate a political minefield they'd barely understood. Dr. Rodriguez, drawing on every ounce of her diplomatic training, worked tirelessly to find common ground. "We cannot undo the past," she reminded the delegates, "but we can learn from it. Our strength lies not in retribution, but in our ability to move forward together." As the debates raged on, news of the situation in the Thalatian system reached Nexus Prime. The reaction was immediate and intense. Some delegates saw it as proof that humans couldn't be trusted with their newfound power. Others argued that swift action to correct the situation demonstrated humanity's commitment to justice. President Okafor, attending the conference as Earth's primary representative, found herself in the difficult position of having to both condemn the actions of the Roe humans and defend her species' right to a place at the galactic table. "We do not condone these actions," she stated firmly, her gaze sweeping across the assembly. "And we will take full responsibility for bringing these individuals to justice. But let us not forget that it was human ingenuity and courage that broke the Zarkonian stranglehold on the galaxy. We ask not for gratitude, but for the opportunity to prove ourselves worthy allies." As the political drama unfolded on Nexus Prime, Admiral Chen and his task force arrived in the Thalatian system. The situation was even worse than they'd feared. The human mercenaries, using adapted Zarkonian technology, had established a formidable defense around the captured trading hub. Chen knew that a direct assault would likely result in civilian casualties and could potentially destroy the very infrastructure they were trying to protect. He needed a different approach. Drawing on the lessons learned during Operation Trojan Horse, Chen devised a daring plan. Using a combination of cyber warfare, precision strikes, and good old-fashioned bluffing, his team managed to isolate the mercenary leaders from their troops. "You have one chance to surrender," Chen's voice boomed across all frequencies. "You may have Zarkonian tech, but we have the full might of the Galactic Alliance behind us. Stand down now, or face the consequences." It was a gamble. The Alliance was still more concept than reality at this point, but it paid off. Faced with the prospect of becoming galactic pariahs, most of the mercenaries chose to surrender. As Chen's team moved in to secure the trading hub and free the hostages, he couldn't shake a feeling of unease. How many more situations like this would they face? Could humanity be trusted with the power they now wielded? These questions and more weighed heavily on the minds of all involved as the Dawn Concord negotiations entered their final phase. The incident in the Thalatian system had served as a stark reminder of the challenges that lay ahead. Dr. Rodriguez, in a private moment with President Okafor, gave voice to the concern that had been gnawing at her. "We set out to free the galaxy from tyranny," she said softly, "but what if we've just replaced one form of dominance with another?" Okafor nodded gravely. "That's the burden we must bear, Elena. The power to shape the future of 100 worlds. It's a responsibility unlike anything humanity has ever faced. We'll make mistakes, that's inevitable. But we must never stop striving to do better, to be better." As the final articles of the Dawn Concord were drafted, a new framework for galactic governance began to take shape. Checks and balances were put in place to ensure that no single species, including humans, could dominate the others. A galactic peacekeeping force, with representatives from all member species, would be established to handle situations like the one in the Thalatian system. But perhaps most importantly, the Concord included provisions for cultural exchange, scientific cooperation, and open dialogue between all sentient species. The goal was not just to prevent conflict, but to foster genuine understanding and friendship across the stars. As the delegates prepared to sign the historic document, Dr. Rodriguez looked out over the assembled beings, a tapestry of diverse life forms, each with their own hopes, fears, and dreams. In that moment, she felt the full weight of what they had accomplished, and what still lay ahead. The price of victory had been high. Worlds had burned, lives had been lost, and the very fabric of galactic society had been torn apart and rewoven. But as she watched representatives from once bitter enemy species clasp hands, or tentacles, or pincers, in friendship, Rodriguez dared to hope that it had all been worth it. The dawn of a new galactic age was upon them. Humanity had played its hand in the cosmic chess match, and against all odds, they had emerged victorious. But the game, as they were all learning, was far from over. As Part 5 draws to a close, the galaxy stands on the brink of a new era. The Dawn Concord offers hope for a future of peace and cooperation, but the path forward is fraught with challenges. Can the fledgling Galactic Alliance hold together in the face of ancient grudges and new temptations? Will humanity rise to the occasion, using their newfound influence to uplift all species, or will they succumb to the lure of power? And what unseen threats might be stirring in the vast, uncharted regions of space, drawn by the promise of advanced technology and shifted power dynamics? The cosmic chess match continues, with the stakes higher than ever before. The next moves will determine not just the fate of humanity, but the future of all sentient life in the galaxy. A new dawn. 5 years had passed since the signing of the Dawn Concord, and the galaxy was a changed place. The grand vision of unity and cooperation had faced numerous challenges, but against all odds, it was slowly becoming a reality. On Earth, now the de facto capital of the Galactic Alliance, the skyline of major cities had been transformed. Towering spires of alien designs stood alongside human architecture, a visual representation of the cultural melding taking place across the stars. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, now serving as the human representative on the Galactic Council, stood at the window of her office in the Alliance headquarters, gazing out at the bustling streets below. Species from 100 worlds mingled freely, their differences celebrated rather than feared. A gentle chime announced the arrival of her next appointment. "Send them in," she said, turning from the window. Admiral James Chen, his hair now streaked with grey, entered the room. Despite the years that had passed, his posture was as straight as ever, his eyes still sharp and alert. "James," Elena greeted him warmly. "How goes the patrol?" Chen's lips quirked in a small smile. "Quiet, thankfully. The peacekeeping force is doing its job. We haven't had a major incident in months." Rodriguez nodded, relief evident on her face. The early days of the Alliance had been tumultuous, with rogue factions and opportunists trying to take advantage of the shifting power dynamics. But gradually, stability had taken hold. "And the Zarkonians?" she asked, her tone more serious now. Chen's expression sobered. "Still isolationist for the most part, but there are signs of change. Some of their younger generation are pushing for more engagement with the Alliance. It's slow progress, but it's progress nonetheless." As they discussed the state of galactic affairs, neither could ignore the elephant in the room, or rather, the looming presence just beyond Earth's atmosphere. The massive structure that had appeared in orbit 3 months ago, unlike anything they had ever encountered before. "Any progress on communications?" Chen asked, though he already knew the answer. Rodriguez shook her head. "Nothing yet. Dr. Comel's team is working around the clock, but the technology is. It's beyond anything we've seen. beyond even the Zarkonians at their peak. The arrival of the mysterious structure had sent shockwaves through the Alliance. Some saw it as a threat, others as an opportunity, but all agreed that it represented a new chapter in galactic history. As if on cue, alarms began to blare throughout the building. Chen and Rodriguez exchanged a quick glance before rushing to the command center. The scene that greeted them was one of controlled chaos. Holographic displays showed the orbital structure, now pulsing with an ethereal light. "Report," Chen barked, slipping easily back into his role as military commander. A young lieutenant, her uniform bearing the patches of 3 different species, responded crisply. "Sir, we're detecting massive energy fluctuations from the structure. It seems to be opening." All eyes turned to the main display. With a grace that belied its enormous size, the structure was indeed unfurling like a vast metallic flower, and from within emerged something. "My God," Rodriguez breathed. "It's a ship." But ship seemed an inadequate word to describe the entity that now hung in space above Earth. It was organic and mechanical, beautiful and terrifying, utterly alien in a way that dwarfed even the diversity of the Alliance. For a moment, silence reigned in the command center. Then, with a crackle of static, a voice filled the room, not through speakers, but seemingly directly in their minds. "Greetings, children of the stars," the voice said, somehow conveying both ancient wisdom and childlike wonder. "We have watched your struggles and your triumphs. We have seen you rise above your differences and reach for something greater. And now, at last, you are ready." Rodriguez and Chen exchanged glances, a mixture of fear and excitement coursing through them. "Ready for what?" Rodriguez asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The response came not in words, but in a series of images that flooded their minds. Vistas of unimaginable beauty, technologies beyond their wildest dreams, and most incredibly, other galaxies teeming with life and possibility. "Ready to join us," the voice continued. "Ready to take your place in the cosmic community. You have proven yourselves worthy stewards of life and civilization. The true journey is only beginning." As the implications of this message sank in, Rodriguez felt a thrill of both terror and exhilaration. They had thought the galaxy was vast, but now the entire universe was opening up before them. Every challenge they had faced, every hardship they had overcome, had been preparing them for this moment. Chen, ever the pragmatist, was already thinking of the logistics, the challenges, the potential risks, but even he couldn't suppress a smile of wonder. "Well, Elena," he said, turning to his old friend, "it seems our cosmic chess match just got a lot more interesting." Rodriguez nodded, her mind racing with the possibilities and responsibilities that lay ahead. "Indeed it has, James. Indeed it has." As news of the contact spread across Earth and to the far reaches of the Alliance, a new wave of excitement and unity swept through the galaxy. Species that had once been bitter enemies now found themselves drawn together by this new frontier, this promise of something greater than themselves. The Dawn Concord, it seemed, had been just the beginning. Now, standing on the threshold of a universe vaster and more wondrous than they had ever imagined, humanity and their galactic allies faced their greatest adventure yet. As the mysterious ship hung in orbit, a silent invitation to the stars beyond, one thing became clear: the game had changed, the board had expanded, and the next move would take them further than they had ever dreamed possible. The cosmic chess match continued, but now the stakes were nothing less than the fate of all life, across all galaxies, for all time. And humanity, once a small player on a tiny board, now found itself at the center of it all, ready to make its move. As Part 6 and our story draw to a close, we leave our characters, and indeed, all of humanity and their galactic allies, on the brink of a new and grand adventure. The challenges they faced, the bonds they forged, and the lessons they've learned have all led to this moment. The future stretches out before them, filled with infinite possibilities and untold wonders. The war may be over, the initial struggles for peace resolved, but the true journey is only just beginning. As they step into this new era, the species of the Galactic Alliance carry with them the hopes, dreams, and potential of countless worlds. The cosmic chess match continues, on a scale grander than any could have imagined, with moves yet to be made and games yet to be won. And so our story ends where all great adventures begin, with a step into the unknown, guided by hope, curiosity, and the unquenchable human spirit that has now spread across the stars.